also put our efforts in a policy framework, which we are now implementing, and have agreed that there would be sectoral approach in that direction. And those sectors are very clearly articulated in our policy. It would be sectors like energy, sectors like land, water, health, biodiversity, both in mitigation and adaptation. And therefore, in the coming year, we are coming back to the same policy to begin to deal with what we call the allocation of the carbon budget. Now, having a dialogue with industry about who must take how much burden sharing of that, what at international level would be called burden sharing. So at our level, it would be the carbon budget distribution, so that each and every sector is very clear about how much they have to do in order to contribute to South Africa's commitment, which is 34% by the year 2020 and an additional 43% by the year 2025, 2030.
Let's focus back in on the Durban platform, and COP17 really considered a watershed moment by the ministry, likened to the 1997 COP, where we had the Kyoto Protocol being agreed upon. Why was this a turning point for climate change negotiations?
We believe that the world has heard, and I think the world is really beginning to realize, all parties are beginning to realize that climate change is a very, very serious issue. There's also pressure from our society, civil society. There are actions from all walks of life, religious community, and so on. So we think that on its own, many more people are beginning to be aware of that. And obviously the public call does necessitate that our governments must actually take different actions. Not that people would not necessarily do, but just to also realize that we are with our society and we are moving along with the demands of our society and what our society needs, given the dangerous levels that we may be at if we're not taking action. I think this is actually a contributory factor to the turning point, but there has been several discussions going on over time now, and I think more and more countries, especially those who are emerging countries like the basic group, let me just cite it as an example, are really saying that we have begun doing something voluntarily, and therefore we think that at the time set at this COP now, agreed to, as per the decision of the COP of 17, we would be able to now be ready to get into some form of a legal instrument. I think it's also level of preparedness that we have gone through in terms of our economy, that we would not necessarily get on measures and take over measures that we should not be able to fulfill. And that on its own is actually has got integrity in it. And I think it's quite good that countries move with integrity on things that we think we will be able to fulfill.
At the beginning, the US lead negotiator, Todd Stern, was very adamant that legal was not something they'd be looking to consider if they didn't know the terms of agreement. The US really seemed to shift by the end of negotiations. Is their stance now in danger with the US elections coming up next year, and perhaps the US now could renege on their agreements that they've made this year?
We hope that they would not renege, nobody would renege, and we hope that indeed there will be continuous integrity in ensuring that we don't chicken out. But we also think that the way the negotiations were going, there were quite a lot of red lines, and people needed to keep on touching base with their capitals. So the final outcome of this Durban of committing to either legal instrument or legal protocol or whatever instrument needs to be decided upon would have been subjected to discussions with people's capitals.